5 questions jealous people ask to hide their envy. Friedrich Nietzsche. Have you ever noticed that the people who envy you rarely attack you directly? They don't walk up to you and say, "I'm jealous of you." They don't openly admit that your success bothers them. Instead, they ask questions. Simple questions. Questions that sound harmless. Questions that seem curious, supportive, or even friendly. Yet somehow, after hearing them, you feel your achievements being questioned, your confidence being challenged, and your excitement slowly fading away. The truth is that jealousy is one of the most disguised emotions in human psychology. Most people are ashamed of it. They don't want to appear bitter. They don't want to admit that another person's success affects them emotionally. So, they hide it. They wrap it in politeness. They disguise it as concern. They present it as curiosity. And this is what makes jealousy so difficult to recognize. Friedrich Nietzsche understood this aspect of human nature deeply. He believed that many human behaviors are driven by hidden motives that people rarely acknowledge, even to themselves. According to Nietzsche, jealousy is often the shadow cast by wounded pride. It emerges when someone sees in another person what they secretly wish they possessed themselves, and rather than confronting that feeling honestly, they project it outward. Today, we're going to explore 5 questions that jealous people frequently ask. Questions that seem innocent on the surface, but often reveal insecurity, comparison, and hidden resentment underneath. And once you learn to recognize these questions, you'll stop taking them personally and start seeing them for what they truly are. Question 1. You were lucky, weren't you? At first glance, this sounds harmless. After all, luck exists. Timing matters. Opportunities matter. But pay attention to what happens when someone repeatedly attributes your success to luck. You get promoted. You were lucky. You build a successful business. You happen to be in the right place at the right time. You achieve a major goal. The circumstances just worked in your favor. Notice what disappears from the conversation. Your effort, your discipline, your sacrifices, your persistence, your years of preparation. All of it is erased. The focus shifts entirely toward chance. Why does this happen? Because acknowledging your hard work creates discomfort. If your success came from dedication and perseverance, then others are forced to ask themselves difficult questions. Could they have worked harder? Could they have been more disciplined? Could they have pursued their goals more seriously? These questions threaten the ego, and when the ego feels threatened, it seeks protection. One of the easiest forms of protection is minimizing someone else's achievement. Nietzsche understood that resentment often emerges when people refuse to confront their own unrealized potential. Rather than improving themselves, they explain away the success of others, and luck becomes a perfect explanation. Question 2. Are you sure it's going to last? This question is disguised as caution. It sounds responsible. It sounds realistic. Sometimes it even sounds caring. But look carefully at the timing. You enter a happy relationship. Are you sure it's going to last? You launch a successful project. Let's see how long it survives. You transform your body through discipline. Most people eventually fall back into old habits. Notice the pattern. Instead of celebrating your progress, they focus on your potential failure. Instead of acknowledging what you've achieved, they predict what could go wrong for you. Because jealousy struggles with permanence. A jealous person often finds comfort in believing that your success is temporary. If your success won't last, then the comparison becomes less threatening. If your happiness is fragile, then they don't have to confront their own dissatisfaction. Nietzsche believed that many people suffer more from witnessing another person's success than from experiencing their own failures. Success acts like a mirror. It reflects possibilities. It reveals what others could become if they chose a different path. And for some people, that reflection becomes uncomfortable, so they unconsciously hope your rise is temporary, not necessarily because they hate you, but because your success challenges their sense of self. Question 3. How much do you earn? Money has always been one of the most powerful triggers of comparison, and comparison is the fuel of jealousy. Of course, not everyone who asks about your income is jealous. Sometimes curiosity is innocent. Sometimes the conversation is practical. But when someone insists on knowing exact numbers, pay attention. The jealous mind loves measurable comparisons. Numbers create rankings. Rankings create status. And status creates emotional reactions. What they're often trying to determine is simple. Am I ahead of you or behind you? Am I more successful? Am I less successful? Where do I stand compared to you? Notice how some people react after receiving the answer. If the number is lower than expected, they relax. If the number is higher than expected, they become uncomfortable. Suddenly, they change the subject. They minimize your accomplishment, or they search for reasons why it doesn't really count. Nietzsche warned against becoming obsessed with comparison. The moment your value depends on outperforming others, you lose connection with your own path. And that is exactly what happens to jealous people. Their attention shifts away from growth and toward measurement, and measurement becomes an endless source of suffering. Question 4. Aren't you afraid of failing? This question often sounds supportive, almost wise, as if the person is genuinely concerned about your well-being. But many times, it reveals something else. Rejection. The jealous person is often deeply familiar with fear. Fear of rejection. Fear of embarrassment. Fear of uncertainty. Fear of failure. Because of these fears, they hesitate. They postpone. They overthink. They remain inside their comfort zone. Then they watch someone else take action. Someone else starts the business. Someone else follows the dream. Someone else takes the risk. And suddenly, the question appears, aren't you afraid of failing? What they're really expressing is their own fear, the possibility that they themselves would never dare to try. Nietzsche admired individuals who embraced uncertainty, people willing to risk failure in pursuit of growth, because without risk, transformation becomes impossible. Jealousy often emerges when people witness courage they themselves cannot access. Your willingness to act becomes a reminder of their hesitation, and reminders can be painful. Question 5. Why you? This is the deepest question of all, and often it remains completely unspoken. The person never says it aloud, but internally the thought repeats itself. Me? Why hey? Why not me? This silent question sits at the heart of jealousy, because jealousy is rarely about another person's success. It's about a person's relationship with their own life. The jealous individual sees the outcome. They see the promotion, the recognition, the happiness, the success, but they don't see the years of effort behind it. They don't see the sacrifices, the failures, the setbacks, the doubts, the sleepless nights. They compare their reality to your result without comparing the journeys, and this creates an illusion of unfairness. Nietzsche believed that resentment grows whenever people focus on outcomes while ignoring effort. The mind begins constructing stories. They don't deserve it. They had advantages. They were lucky. It should have happened to me. These stories protect the ego, but they also prevent growth, because as long as success is explained away, self-reflection becomes unnecessary. And without self-reflection, transformation never begins. Understanding the psychology of jealousy. It's important to understand something. Jealousy is not always malicious. In many cases, jealousy is simply insecurity. It is the pain of comparison, the frustration of unrealized potential, the discomfort of seeing someone else achieve what you secretly desire. A person who is secure in their own path doesn't feel threatened by another person's success. They can admire, they can learn, they can celebrate, but an insecure person experiences success differently. Every achievement becomes a comparison. Every victory becomes a reminder. Every accomplishment becomes evidence of what they believe they lack. And this is why these questions appear, not because the person necessarily hates you, but because they are struggling with themselves. Nietzsche's final lesson. In today's world, comparison has become constant. Social media exposes every achievement, every milestone, every success, every victory. As a result, jealousy has become more common than ever, but its psychology remains unchanged. Jealous people rarely confess their envy. Instead, they ask questions that minimize, questions that doubt, questions that compare, questions that quietly challenge your confidence. Remember this: the jealousy of others is often a reflection of your own progress. It is not proof that you are doing something wrong. Sometimes it simply means you are moving forward while they remain stuck. Nietzsche might remind us that your purpose is not to make everyone comfortable. Your purpose is to become who you are capable of becoming. And that journey will inevitably disturb those who are unwilling to pursue their own. So, the next time someone questions your success, your happiness, or your ambition, don't rush to defend yourself. Pause, observe, and ask yourself a simple question. Is this really curiosity? Or is it comparison wearing a mask? Because once you understand the difference, their questions lose their power, and you regain yours.